From a business perspective, in Malaysia, you cannot follow up too closely, right? Over here, you send a
Really?
proposal, 3 days you call up and say,
next week, settle up.
That's what I do, leh. It was good I went for lunch with them because they told me it's important that you come out to meet us so we get to know you, you get to know us, so that when we do the show, we all know each other already. So it's not cold.
And on the back, after that, I heard it's very expensive. Because at that point in time, as an idiot, right, to the market, I just convert. Oh, this is my rate here. I convert. Then I tell you my rate. Then the person just look at it like, this is my 1 month marketing budget. Right? Something along those lines, yeah? And they just freak out.
It goes back to the culture, right? It's a very people culture. And Malaysia is very hierarchical, which means the top boss always wins. So if the boss likes you, it's regardless of rate.
It's true.
Right? So in Malaysia, the price flex elasticity is huge. If they don't know you, then they will play with the lowest price. If they know you, then price is not a matter. So, it comes down to who do you know.
Welcome back to TFC Business Show. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and this is like our second panel. I feel like I'm going to do like 8 today, like I cannot tahan. But this is we got a lot of panels. Luckily, I have a few other co-hosts that will support me, But this panel, I think, is extremely important for our audience because as much as we want to speak to more SME tauques, we do have a lot of working professionals in our ecosystem that are looking for a way out, right? Like the Singapore corporate grind is very intense. They have made some money, then they feel like they want a garden, they want to do something else.
That was very pointed.
They want to explore another way of life.
Right.
And people will start to think like, maybe Singapore very hard to do business, let's do Malaysia. And then live a life there and carve a life there, right? So that's kind of the whole basis of today's discussion. So I want to introduce our co-host, Sofian. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, hi, I'm Sofian and I'm a founder of a consulting firm, Seyrul Consulting.
And you run quite a successful podcast with SMCCI?
With the Malay Chamber of Commerce, We also interview business owners. So this is really nice setup, learning from someone with a lot more experience here.
Thank you. Yeah, this one I can take these days.
You can take
I can take it, yes. But great. Thanks for joining me on this.
Have fun.
If not, I'm going to do 8 on my own. And I have great guests on set. For everybody that somehow don't know you guys, you want to introduce yourself. I love it because I think everybody knows you lah. But
Not necessarily.
Okay,
it's important that, I was just saying that...
Is there a generational thing?
Obviously, it's a generational thing. Gen Zs don't know who the heck I am. But anyway, it's fine because my name is Hossan Leong and I started life as an actor and entertainer, and now I run a couple of businesses both in Singapore and in Malaysia as well.
Yeah, awesome. And yourself?
My name is Isaac Peter, and I'm a Malaysian. I'm a Singapore PR.
So you're the other way around, huh? Today we got two sides of the causeway coming in and out.
Correct.
Okay,
so I started my career in Singapore in 2000. So I've been around since 24 years. That's long, man. And now I moved back to JB. So I run a consulting business both in Singapore and Malaysia.
So maybe to set the stage, can you elaborate on some of the businesses that you're doing? Let our audience understand you better beyond your name and what you do. Yeah.
I have a company called Double Confirm Productions here in Singapore.
Double confirm. That's a trademark. That's the trademark. Confirm and double confirm. That's trademark.
Yes, don't steal it, please. I run corporate events, like corporate entertainment. I provide that for clients who need comedy, who need a host, who need entertainers basically. I also create stuff for them to make it exciting for their events. And across the causeway, I have Double Confirm Arts and Media. The reason is because in Malaysia, I have a second wing to my company where we do corporate training, where we do media management, crisis skills, as well as presentation skills for people who need to go into the boardroom to pitch for investors, to your board of directors. And we train people how to present themselves credibly, so to speak. So basically, I run both sides of the causeway. And in Singapore, I still am doing what I do best. And in Malaysia, we are trying right now to establish longer, hopefully long-term clients.
It will happen.
It will happen.
Why don't you do that here?
I also do it here, but here, I don't do the training as much. My business partner, Paul Carr, does that. So we thought that with two companies, why don't we go into Malaysia and combine both? Double Confirm Arts and Media, Sindaran Berhad, must say, no? Sindaran Berhad.
Must say.
Sindarian Berhad. We have two wings. So basically, two-prong, corporate training and corporate entertainment.
Great. And yourself?
I do OD consulting. So basically what I do is I work with corporates in terms of upskilling and developing their people. So in Singapore, we have WSQ and all, and I'm ACTA certified for the Singapore side. But the way business is done in Malaysia and Singapore is extremely different.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
That's why we're here to talk about it. Yeah.
Of course. The kind of work I do is a lot more on leadership development, but specifically in terms of acclimatizing people to the local culture, because the way you do business in Malaysia and Singapore is very different. On the surface, it looks the same, but the internal nitty-gritty is very different.
Can you elaborate a bit?
Okay, example, right? So I was just talking just now, like doing business. In Singapore, we are so used to remote working. So I could basically have somebody in Hong Kong and we kind of get it working, right? You cannot do it in Malaysia. You need to be present in Malaysia. You can't run it from across the continent.
No, my whole team is remote. And I have people in Ipoh, in Johor, in KL, different places.
True, but you notice the business pace is very different. Over there, it's a lot more sayang, right? So you need to go down, spend more time with them, see how they're doing, buy them coffee. And that works wonders. I've seen Singapore business people who runs it from here, and they will tell them, why are you spending so much time having dinner with the people, right? And the guy in Malaysia will say, but that's the client. So that's a lot. That's very different between Singapore and Malaysia.
On that note, right, because when I first went to Malaysia, then I meet some friends, right? Then Singaporeans, we meet for coffee, it's 45 minutes, very good already. 45 minutes to an hour, very good already. So by the hour, I think I'm very tired already. And in Singapore, the signal is, okay, tired, okay, let's go lah, balik, right, everybody.
Yeah.
But over there, the 1 hour coffee after that, tired, it's okay. We sit here first. 30 minutes later, we can go to the next place. And I was like, oh. So I think that's what you mean by like soft culture difference.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's relationship before business. So are we able to be friends? So mamak-session at night is amazing. So you want to connect with them, go after dinner, right? Mamak-session works wonders.
Even when I want to close high-end corporate clients.
I would say as you move, if they are more exposed, then lesser time, but they are very, very Malaysian, then you really need to spend time. So for example, even when you're networking, don't start with a business card.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's so Singaporean, right?
Yeah.
Exchange
Here's
card.
my card,
For them, it's
yeah.
no. Have a conversation until they ask you, can I have your business card? Then only you exchange.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's very different in the subtleties itself.
Is that your experience or do you have presence there? I mean, SMCCI is like the go-to, right? For this whole Indonesian, Malaysian, Singapore business going
when
around.
you mentioned,
thing.
hey, here's my card. It's so common when you go all these like formal networking events, right? Cards are the first thing that comes out. But nowadays is really, hey, can I just have a short conversation and just get a sense of who you are, what you're about, something that you did at home? Do you do your gardening? How's your cat first? Before I actually have a business relationship with you.
You start with your story, right? A
Exactly.
story. You want to know more about that person.
Yeah, being personal,
Yeah,
right?
being personal. Then you go into this is my card.
On
That's
the
what
flip side though, I would like to think like, do you think if we were to adopt that kind of method, how we do it in Malaysia, here in Singapore, do you think that will work well?
You will lose a business.
Really?
The person will, because in Singapore, we always have this thing, but we don't have enough time. So when I meet you, within the first 20 seconds, I want to know, is this conversation going to be
Worth it.
productive?
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't talk about business, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm wasting time.
Objectively, based on your own anecdotal idea, right?
Yeah.
In Malaysia, you can like kind of spend more time, chit chat, and then the end result will still be good.
It becomes better, right? Yeah. So that's one of it, right? I think the other thing from a business perspective, in Malaysia, you cannot follow up too closely, right? Over here, you send a proposal, 3 days you call up and say,
next week, settle up.
That's what I do, leh. I mean, for me, it's like, time is money, and I gotta get.
Agreed.
I want to plan for you.
My friends in Malaysia say you can never shake off the Singaporean in you, right? And these are some of the very subtle things, you just have it. Yeah.
And I think one of the things is because in Malaysia, and I think it's neither good or bad, it's just culture, right?
it's just culture.
It's
Absolutely.
very hard for people to say no in Malaysia. So they rather avoid you than saying no to you.
I see.
So the whole idea, if I avoid you long enough, you should know it's a no.
So clients take note now when I hound you.
In Singapore, I want to quickly tell you a no so that you stop phoning me. So very different take to
That's
the
so
same thing,
interesting,
right?
huh?
Yeah, exactly. So the
Okay.
people culture there is extremely different.
Because there's one experience which I think I spoke about with you. I was invited to do just a 20-minute stand-up comedy segment. And normally in Singapore, when I do stand-up, I just tell them my quote. They tell me what time to turn up. I turn up, I tell my jokes, I go home. right?
So transactional, right?
But that's
Yeah.
the way we do it here.
Very efficient.
So it's in Malaysia, when someone hired me just recently to do something, they said, let's meet for lunch. So I said, lunch? Why?
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Are you afraid
Exactly
of
what
what
went
I'm
through my
going
head.
to say? That you want to know my jokes?
Yeah.
They said, no, just have lunch, get to know you. I'm like, okay. So we went for lunch. And then it was good I went for lunch with them because they told me, it's important that you come out to meet us so we get to know you, you get to know us, so that when we do the show, we all know each other already. So it's not cold.
Yeah.
You know, so I really appreciated that from the client. And I said, yes, from now on, I'll go for lunch with everybody who wants to go for lunch with me. I'm very free.
You should try that here in Singapore.
If you do that here, people roll eyes at you. And it's like, why need to lunch? Just send me agreement. I will sign it. I'm ready to go.
So over in Singapore, we are very strong on making the line very clear.
Yeah.
In Malaysia, we need to blur the line, right? And it's not for negative things, right? It's a
No.
lot more about I need to have a sense of you before I do business with you.
But that in both ways it works because
Yes.
it's like you say, it's different culturally.
Yep.
And I really appreciate Singapore's way of working as well because also we get it done. In Malaysia, we get it done, but another way. You know what I mean? So it's no right or wrong, really.
It's a business
exactly.
culture that has a nuance to it, right?
Absolutely.
When I'm listening to this, right, what I felt that being here so long, you thought there's only one way. And then when you start meeting people like, hey, this is not the only way. I think it's out of the school system. We've been trained to do it that way so long.
And maybe digging into like some of the other entrepreneurs that have expanded, from the SMCCI ecosystem, entering into Malaysia, like because they are in the more like asset business, right? It's very training, very development,
asset, okay.
Then they are the asset heavy type guys, right? That they go in, they open shops, okay, like shops considered quite heavy these days, right? Never build roads, right? So not asset heavier businesses. What do they say about expanding into Malaysia?
They gotta have guts, and they gotta, because they always say, over here it's so competitive. We just gotta get out. I think the qualities that they will have is definitely they got a lot of guts. They are willing to go into the unknown, and they're really okay with not knowing everything. Yeah, but so I would say the qualities are very similar. It's just that I guess the nature of their products and services are unique, different in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then how do you price your product when you enter the market? When I was I think one of the Malaysian banks reached out, and then we work with all the banks, right? And then they're like, oh, can you send me your rate card? Then after that goes no
Right.
sound, right? And on the back after that, I heard it's very expensive because at that point in time, as an idiot, right, to the market, I just convert. Oh, this is my rate here. I convert. Then I tell you my rate. Then the person just look at it like, this is my 1 month marketing budget, right? Something along those lines, yeah. And they just freak out. So, and I had a few other friends who are also in the media marketing business, and they are established players here. They're trying to enter the market, and then they ask me how to price. And I tell them, okay, you convert, divide by 2.
Oh, is it?
That is
It's
kind of
quite
how I
interesting
price.
That's your formula I should learn.
Okay, so that is the pricing model that I go with
Right.
today.
Because
so
it's
I want to
true
hear
though.
from your,
I mean,
how you guys do it.
For me, when I first started in Malaysia, I realized you cannot do dollar for dollar. Because it's really, really too expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't know about the divide by 2. So it was really by feel.
Yep.
And then for me as an entertainer, I had to see what KL people are doing, and my peers. And of course, I cannot charge what they are charging because KL charges, the celebrities charge a lot of money because the market is bigger. And I'm basically an unknown when you step into a different market.
Yep.
So I had to really lower it to where everyone's comfortable and deal with it and be happy with it and be contented with it. And that's what I had to learn along the way. Be content with what you propose and what's your quote and say thank you very much if you get the job.
So what's interesting about Malaysia is there isn't a benchmark.
Exactly.
Really?
It
You
really-
feel so? Okay, no, because my point of view is I straddle. There are some days, right, I think like, wow, there's no benchmark. Like, you can shout whatever price the person want, they will take. Right? And then there are other days, I was like, oh my God, the benchmark is so low, how to fight? You know what I mean? Right? So I straddle with this. So happy to hear your point of view.
Kind of put it as services, right? If you're services, the benchmark, there isn't really a benchmark. There is a lot of voices. It goes back to the culture, right? It's a very people culture. And Malaysia is very hierarchical, which means the top boss always wins. So if the boss likes you, it's regardless of rate.
It's true.
Right? So in Malaysia, the price flex elasticity is huge. If they don't know you, then they will play with the lowest price. If they know you, then price is not a matter. So, it comes down to who do you know. Yeah, so I think that will be one way I look at it, right? Now, my product is a bit more commoditized product. So like training and all, they do have certain rates. And just like in Singapore, we have WSQ, In Malaysia, they have their HRDF.
HRD.
So there is a price, and majority of consultants play at that price. I play at above the price. And what's interesting is you need to assess the person you're working with. If the person is very much like a Singaporean, then you have to play the Singaporean game, right? If the person is like a Malaysian, then it's a lot about building the friendships, rapport, and you cannot run away from social media presence, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
People size you up on that.
On that note, right, the pool that you're talking about, actually, it's part of the Malaysian system, right, where all the employers have to pay an X amount to the employee, or based on the employee into an account.
Yep.
Right, and in this account you can tap on, right, and so service providers have to tap on this account.
Yes.
Right, and I know there's a lot of money in this account,
It's
collectively
huge.
across the board, but there is certain requirements, certain stringents to
of
this
course.
thing. Can you elaborate more about that? Because I was telling my friends, do you know that in Malaysia, across the workforce, because of this system, there is X amount of money put on the side.
To be
and then
tapped
everybody
on.
was like, really? I want to sell there, right? So please elaborate for us.
Earlier on, you're talking about pricing. So you cannot charge the Singapore-based pricing.
Yeah.
But so if you go to Malaysia, you're looking at volume. So Malaysia is 33 million population. Singapore is what? 6.
Yeah.
Right? So 33 million population, and the workforce is growing, right? So if you're going to go Malaysia market, you need to recognize, you need to price it locally, but you need to think of a long-term game. That means we are going on volume. So if you look at it that way, they have their HRDF system, which is similar to our WSQ and Skills Future in Singapore. But the good thing is Skills Future in Singapore goes to the individual. In Malaysia, it's purely through companies, right? So the pool is huge. And the biggest challenge in consulting and training is creating awareness. So you'd be surprised the amount of companies who have no idea what training is. In Singapore, we are just overwhelmed with it.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody
He
is
say
like,
one, no, I say one.
It's true.
no. I used to do projects with the government sectors and all, and people are...
The
there's
training
such a
never
thing-
stops. I always get a
upskill.
Yeah.
Do you know in Singapore there's such a thing as training fatigue, right? People have gone to the point eventually when the boss asks to go for training, they look at which hotel you're having the training because let's go for the food, right? I'm just too trained. In Malaysia, it's the opposite. Not everybody understands training,
Right.
right? And that's quite surprising. So the money is huge. It's about bringing value. And I think what was interesting is after COVID, there were more employers looking for quality training rather than just the cheapest training. So that's starting to happen right now.
Yeah.
I think for us in Malaysia is to get the word out there that we are there.
Yep.
So I think that's why we're doing the HRD conference in October in KL. It's still a learning process for me and my business partner to how to position ourselves, first of all, in Johor. Secondly, in KL and Malaysia-wide. Because, I mean, we've done training in Ipoh and all that stuff, but I think to get the word
Who
out there...
engages you in Ipoh for
Well,
training?
Oh, Ipoh is where the food is, man.
I want to know.
It was the girl guides.
Wow.
Yeah, the girl guides. Because
really?
they had to do a presentation for the Queen. And that was
she's the
their-
patron, right?
She's the patron. Yeah, she's the patron. And so it's about getting, teaching them how to be confident presenting in front of a huge crowd.
That is so cool.
So so I mean, it's interesting for our kind of work that we get to travel around, that we get to meet new people. Our clients are always brand new.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get repeat clients. But here in Singapore, we also have very loyal clients, which we're very grateful for. So yeah, running both countries has been very interesting. Getting the word out differently, it's different in both countries as well.
It's very different strategy, right?
Strategy is different.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to come from a point of view of, let's say I'm a Singaporean and I want to go into Malaysia, start a business. I mean, you've been almost 10 years, right, Hossan? Like, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of I don't know what I don't know. So what would you say to people who, I want to step my foot there, where do I start?
When we first started in 2015, I think I would dare to say that we were very early adopters into coming into the Malaysian scene, not as an MNC, but as just a small outfit. We had big dreams of opening a drama school, a dance school. But then I think Johor at that point in time, JB wasn't ready for that. So that kind of fizzled out. So we concentrated more on corporate entertainment and corporate training. We had to do our own research, basically. Nobody helped us. So go online, find out MDAC, is it?
MDEC.
MDEC, all the rules and regulations, get a good corporate secretary, accountant.
Oh, yes.
Very important. Who know the forms and everything. Because don't forget, everything is going to be in Bahasa Melayu. So Yeah, so for me, it was hard to understand it. So I had to get people to help me. I hired a really, really competent, very, very good person to help us with all that. You know, go office, go to MBJB, fill in forms, make sure you got your license, then have us at board.
And they
sign
don't work
board.
on Fridays.
And they don't work on Fridays. Hack, don't, I found out. Thursday, go at 3 p.m. because they want to knock off work already.
Yeah.
So you should get approved one. Hashtag just saying.
Hashtag
You
just
see,
saying,
I
yeah.
gave you a hack,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I mean, do your research. I would say, please do your research. Don't just say, oh, I just want to go in blind. Cannot. You must. There are rules, there are regulations, there are things that you have to be very aware of before you step foot into a different country to do anything.
So let's say the research is done. Then how about the people aspect? Like, okay, so I've got all the corporate secretary and the finance stuff up, right? But I don't know anyone, or I don't really have partners or contacts. I don't have a network. Wow.
Especially when they are like professionals here, right? Like you're a
Yeah.
professional in Singapore, then you have garnered your skill set for 20 years, then you think you accumulate enough, you want to, explore a different life.
I would say,
Yeah.
very important, get to know the people in the Singapore consul, the consulate, because they have all the contacts.
Right.
Why not? You say, I am a Singaporean, I want to set up my business in Malaysia, in Johor, or in KL, or wherever. Get to know the Singapore consulate, the High Commission, because they have all the contacts and they will help you. Enterprise Singapore, so many EDB, I mean, those are coming in, but those going out.
IE Singapore.
IE
right?
Singapore, I beg your pardon.
It's true,
Right?
they got KPI, just saying. So they
So-
will talk to you.
They will help you. Why wouldn't they? Because you are bringing the Singapore brand out, what? And so that's what I did as well. I made friends with, and they're now really amazing friends of mine, people in the Singapore consulate and
Singapore Global Network is also
SGN
another
as well, yeah.
SGN.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
under EDB. Yeah.
correct. And get to know people like Isaac because he's very, he got network.
I built over time because
Exactly.
because I work in Singapore. I never worked in Malaysia, right? So when I go back, I had to literally start from scratch, right? But I think when you're talking about going to Malaysia, right? Doing your research via formal market research is one thing, but being on the ground is totally another thing,
Absolutely.
right? And Malaysia is so huge. The market is very different between KL, Johor, Malacca. It's a very different market.
Yeah.
So you cannot assume everyone's the same.
Can you give us an overarch? I know it's a bit of a it's a high calling, it's not easy, but give us a arc of like overall in the consultancy, this kind of services business across Malaysia, different state. What are we looking at? How does it look like across the different states?
Generally, you have your main states, your Penang, your KL, Selangor.
I think
right?
the other states not very happy, when you say they
They are the more industrial, they are the more cosmopolitan, right?
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, Johor. So Johor is the second most popular state in Malaysia. The first is being Selangor. Despite having the most popular state and having majority of people working in Singapore, they don't spend like a KLians, right? So I was just talking with Hossan the other day. A lot of people assume Johorians earn Singapore dollars, will spend like Singaporeans. Not true, right? So they still behave like Malaysians in terms of spending. So like for me, when I started my business in 2012, I went straight with KL because most of the decisions and by MNCs are always in KL.
Absolutely.
Johor is where the factories are. So a lot of decision making in KL, which is why I think you end up going KL more frequent because the big things are there. KL is the main place. Penang is also very industrial, but Penang is hyper competitive.
In what sense? More competitive than
so
KL?
let's talk about training and consultancy, right? Penang is such a competitive market. The rates goes a bit lower. It's extremely competitive at the rate level. KL, you still have a bit more free play in terms of your rates itself.
Okay.
Yeah. In Johor, the tendency is to go as low as possible. That's my experience. Because most of the factories are open in Johor,
Absolutely.
right? And
Like headquarters is still in KL. what?
headquarters in Singapore,
Yeah.
in KL, right? And then for companies which is more high value, super high tech, is usually more in Singapore, right?
Right.
So you have all the big ones over here, the R&D is here. If you go to the other states like Malacca, so Malacca is tourism. So different states have different emphasis. So you want to check out the different states for what they are good at. And then you also have this thing called corridors, which is like your...
What is a corridor?
Right, so there's this thing, there are business industrial districts.
Okay.
So you have your Johor corridor, which is where your Iskandar is. So Iskandar is considered like a corridor. Then you have Northern, you have East Coast, you have West Coast, you have Central. So everybody have their own plan. Singapore, we only have five CDCs, right?
Yeah.
In Malaysia, you have like 13. So everybody has their own game. So you need to check out the different ones to know what works.
Okay.
So you have federal and state. which is very different from Singapore. So I think Singaporeans need to be mindful. Different states have different rules of how they play.
Yeah, and now with the special economic zone being set up as well, you can look into the different offerings that both countries, or rather Johor, is going to be offering to Singapore and vice versa. Because I've been doing a bit of reading, and I mean, with Johor having USD 15 billion investments coming into manufacturing and all that, it's quite amazing, I think about it. And so if you're thinking of coming in, there are some industries I think which you probably could do well in, depending on what you do with how you say hard assets and stuff like that.
Ones.
Hard assets. And then there are the services like for like food, F&B, hospitality. Because now Johor, how many new hotels coming up? Novotel is opening. Sheraton is opening.
All for Singaporeans, right?
I mean, exactly.
No, because
then,
he just said, right, Johorians don't spend like that.
that's to attract, people coming in, so Johor will grow. So on the flip side, Johor will then start to up the salary of the Malaysians, of the Johorians, so that the quality, so that people can remain in Johor, stay where they work, rather than come in and out every day. So it makes sense to make both countries or the state of Johor grow as well.
One area of opportunity for Singaporean, because when I started my career, I was in engineering, right? So you're looking about the investment, right? Having engineering firms to provide support services. So for example, a lot of the Malaysia has just came out with a semiconductor master plan, right? In terms of the design and all. I think that is an opportunity for Singapore because we have been doing R&D for meaning in Singapore, have been doing R&D for the longest time. So I think there's opportunity for them. Spillover industries in terms of support industries. I think that will be a big thing in Johor with the Singapore Johor zones,
Special
right?
economic
So
zone.
for example, simple example, I used to be doing jigs and fixtures. Those are the things that we need because in Malaysia, highly skilled in this area are few. Majority of them are in Singapore.
Right.
So there are a lot of rooms for SME manufacturing,
Right.
right? Support services, semiconductors coming in. Those are the areas that Singaporeans can look. In terms of F&B, and this because my wife is Singaporean, when we moved back to Malaysia, I just told her all you need to do is improve on service. And I think Malaysia has no issue with, Malaysia has good food, but service is always the usual complaints, right? So Singaporeans, if they do business or F&B, it's a matter of just upping the service and you will do well.
So the big thing now, I think in Johor especially, are the data centers that are coming up everywhere.
Really?
And so Johor has this, I think on the whole, but Johor has this green plan, I think. They want to, because data centers use a lot of water, a lot of resources. And a lot of companies are coming in to try and be sustainable. So giving the water back to the communities that they built the data centers at, which is, I think, is important. So I think Singaporeans who want to go and start businesses there, sustainability is a big thing. Health tourism is a big thing as well.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so those are things that if you want to come into Malaysia, have a look at those services or those manufacturing, semiconductors.
Oh, yeah.
And the medical industry as well. I mean, they're making stuff in Johor and selling to the rest of the world.
And there are hospitals in Johor where you can tell on your CPF.
Before I kena attacked by Sabah Sarawak, right? So I feel like the discussion always, like you must say the whole peninsula first, then Sabah Sarawak
on the side.
pop out on the
I'm
side.
very
right?
interested in East Malaysia. I've never been.
My brother lives in Sabah. And I was just telling Sabah is the second most populous state in Malaysia. Now, Sabah, personally, you might want, if you are thinking in terms of ecotourism, Sabah is an amazing place.
It's amazing. I don't think they need us. They are doing amazing things
Okay,
there
so I
already.
think there's a difference. Sabahan has a lot of land, right? But they may not have the know-how on how do you do ecotourism. So I think one of the things that as you talk to more Malaysians, you have two kinds of Malaysian. Those who are globally exposed and those who are not. And majority of those who own what we have in Malaysia are not so exposed. So for them, they're just happy with what they have. And this is where the opportunity to come and partner with the locals to have a more global mindset, right? So for them, if ecotourism means you just go to the kampong and stay, not thinking of how do you extend that.
Take the Bali playbook lah, that type of vibe, right? Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah,
So Sabah is a great place for ecotourism. Things are slowly improving. The roads are getting better right now. And more houses are coming up. I think it's a lot cheaper than Semenanjung. It's a nice place.
Sabah is
Prices are a bit
amazing.
more expensive compared to Semenanjung. Now, the other thing, and this is just my experience, I find minus KL, Sabah is another place where people speaks reasonably good English, really good English.
It's true.
So that's one thing I noticed, right? You have a lot of Sabah and Sarawakian who speaks good English, and that may be an asset itself over
Yeah.
there.
But is it just a very tourism type of game or? Yeah.
You have
It's
a lot.
oil and gas as well, right?
Oil and gas, not so much Sabah, it's more Sarawak.
Oh, Sarawak, okay.
Right, Sarawak and Brunei. But Sabah, I think you have, the other thing will be the logging and the forestry. So that's
forestry.
part, right? But if you're talking in terms of sustainability,
Yeah.
because one of the things that if you're starting to look from business to business, I think BCA standards, BCA, the building,
Yeah,
they are
over
bringing
here.
the Singapore energy savings into Malaysia. So there are places, I think Sunway is taking it,
Okay.
right, to actually promote this whole idea of greenery. So BCA standards are going in, so Singaporeans can actually bring that more and more.
Amazing.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea for you guys.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
And then in Sabah, you have a lot of the eco stuff, right? I mean, I would
Yeah.
say more eco because that's most obvious.
Yeah, yeah. Durian. Sabah has this one durian that is amazing.
Is that
It
the
tastes
red color one?
Yeah, the red
I've
color
never tried
one.
it.
Tastes
I
like
have not tried that,
tastes
man.
like cream. You know, like when you
See, there
cannot
you
even
go.
pick it up. Sabah,
Another reason.
I don't know why they never export. They need to export. Okay.
Once again,
Yeah.
people are not exposed, right? So they're just happy. I think one of the things in Malaysia we want to do more is to get people to be more aware that what's going on globally.
Why do you think it's not happening? Why do you think they don't think global in the sense?
But that's also providing opportunity for Singaporeans to go into partner lah.
It goes back to people culture.
Right.
Generally, Malaysians are very contented.
Okay.
We are just happy. And this is one of the big difference between Malaysia and Singapore. In Singapore, we assume everybody aspires to be a tauke, everybody aspires to make $1 million. That's a general assumption in Singapore. In Malaysia, not everybody thinks that way. Some people is just happy sitting by the seaside, go and catch
But
fish.
it's okay too, what?
It's okay, but it's not. But when a Singaporean goes to Malaysia, they would use the money bait as a way to, shall we do this? We'll make 10
Right.
million.
I see opportunity every corner. Everywhere. It's like, oh, this one can improve. That one can
Okay,
improve. This one
mindset.
can do.
That's
This
the
one like that.
Singaporean
We can
mindset in
rejuvenate
Malaysia,
this,
right?
bring the- It's like, there's
The
so
tauke
many
mindset.
things.
Generally, Malaysians are very contented, which is why the people culture is important. So I think the way I find how Singaporeans can partner Malaysians is bring the business savviness there, but respect the locals in terms of recognizing they want to
Yes.
build a relationship.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
symbiotically grow it. But I
Yeah.
think the other part is learning to slow down. I was always asking him, how's your
Have I
slowing down,
slowed
right?
down?
Singaporeans find it very hard to slow down. If you are at your work desk in Singapore and you don't do work for 10 minutes, you will feel guilty, right? You just need to keep busy. In Malaysia, 10 minutes is not enough. It's a good synergy if you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to recognize, not everybody wants to make $1 million. They
Yeah.
will talk about it, but they may not want to go over it. So we just need to recognize that.
Oh yeah, if you have any comments, any questions, put it in the comment section. We'll answer you maybe now, maybe next podcast. We'll see where it goes. But I also want to highlight in Sabah Sarawak, there's a lot of tech talents. Right?
Yeah.
It's very undertapped. Like a lot of people are struggling to recruit tech hires.
in Sabah and Sarawak.
In Sabah Sarawak.
Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
there's a lot of. I think the government is investing a lot.
Once the government puts out the infrastructure, especially internet, the locals will just bloom, right? Because we have a lot of smart talents, and I think Malaysia has a lot of talent. It's just that either they are comfortable where they are.
Which is the beauty of Malaysia, right? You can be comfortable without doing a lot, right? This is the beauty, and it's also the whammy in that sense, right?
I sense envy there.
Yeah. Of course, I am envious. Yeah.
But I think livability as well in Malaysia, if you want to come and set up a business and live there, because you have to be on the ground, like you say,
Oh, yeah.
to
That's right.
network, to meet people, to set up your business. I think for me personally, it has been, because we always go, wow, you live in JB, like very far away like that. Actually, no, it's Woodlands plus 20 minutes. Come on, seriously. You live in Woodlands, Sembawang, it's already very far from where we are now in Suntec, where are we now? Marina Bay, Suntec City. But you know what I mean? It's literally from north to south. So it's not that bad. If you want to live elsewhere in Kuala Lumpur or Penang, of course you have the distance. But I think livability in terms of setting your business there is very doable. And of course, it's definitely much, much more reasonable and cheaper than Singapore. However, like I said before, you want to set up your businesses, please make sure that there are hoops to go through.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? I think in Singapore, it's easier to set up a business here than in Malaysia, I think.
Definitely. So I think for differences, right? I think in Malaysia, you should use middlemen to get a lot of government things done. When I
Yeah.
say middleman, somebody to process your documents, right?
A runner kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In Singapore, we are promoting doing it yourself. In Malaysia, it's always good to work through. So for example, if you're going to hire a maid. You might as well use somebody. Don't try to do it yourself. You want to renew certain licenses, it's better to go through somebody because they understand the inner
The
workings.
system.
Yeah.
Having said that though, this year I renewed my employment pass. We did it on our own because
Oh,
we
wow.
used to always have an agent do it for
Okay.
us.
How is it?
So okay, just an agent would charge you a lot of money, okay? But we did it online on our own. I mean,
Oh, wow.
it was a bit difficult because it's a brand new system that Iskandar region has set up. So you can actually, if your business is registered in Johor, you apply for your EP in Johor. You don't have to go to Putrajaya because there's a lot of teething problems.
Right.
So we had a bit of issue, but we got it in the end. So at the end of the day, we did it ourselves. We saved ourselves thousands of ringgit and we did it online.
Oh, nice.
Amazing,
Yeah, so
amazing.
that's something to think about if you want to register your business in Johor. Check out the Iskandar Regional Development Authority website. Everything's there for you.
Good. I think we've covered a lot of good stuff. Any last things anybody want to add for Singaporeans trying to enter the Malaysian market? You know, if not, we can just round it.
I would say opportunity is huge, right? Malaysia is scaling up. I think our GDP is going up, is increasing, I think 3%, 2.9 kind of thing. The opportunity is huge. I think what's important is playing with the locals.
Yeah.
You really need to understand the local culture, right? It's not about who's a better culture, it's recognizing that's the Malaysian culture and you have to work with that. If you can do that, I think life will be amazing.
But you know, having said that, I think once the RTS is ready, that's a huge game changer for Johor
Oh, sure.
and
definitely.
Singapore. Because, you know, I think there's only one point of immigration and customs, I think.
Yes. So there's just
in
one
Bukit
station.
Jaga, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then you're in Singapore already, back and forth. So I think that is something to look into. If you want to start a business in Malaysia, Johor would be a good starting point, I
Oh
think.
yes, if you want to buy property, now is the time.
Yeah.
Prices are going up already. So now is the time to buy property if you want to.
But yeah, it's true though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's important to think about all these things. If you want to start a business, you want to live in
Yeah,
Malaysia,
yeah.
all these things come into play.
Yeah. Step by step, we test it out, okay? Step by step. Cool. Any last things from you?
The biggest thing I got was really just don't impose your own expectations how Singapore
How
works.
things work
This
here,
how
yeah.
they should work. You know, just respect the culture.
It took me a while to be honest because, you know, live in born and bred here. But, you know, now it's learning how to sit back and be content. Yeah, and yeah, work with it.
Or if I maybe give a final kind of thing, right? Never compare. Never go and say, in Singapore, we can do this,
Yeah.
right? You do that and you're going to get it. Never do
And
that.
stop saying everything is cheaper.
Oh yeah, don't
It's
be a
very
chicken, man.
irritating.
I never say all that, Just
Yeah.
saying,
No, it's
right?
true.
I'm just reacting. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
know, if
Thanks,
our audience
guys.
would love
Nice.
to connect with you. They can check you out on LinkedIn.
Oh,
I think
please
that's
do,
probably
yes.
the best platform. Thank you. Thanks again for TFC Business Show. See ya. Bye.
Bye.